Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. So today we will continue our lesson on subtopic 6.10, which is effect of heat on salts. Actually, this subtopic is all about experiments. Before we go further, this is the learning standard for this subtopic. At the end of this lesson, pupils are able to first one, describe briefly chemical tests to identify gases, and second one, to investigate the effects of heat on salt through experiments. Let's see for the first one, which is chemical tests to identify gases. Firstly, we look for an experiment to test for oxygen gas. The procedure for this experiment is firstly, put 2 spatulas of solid potassium chlorate into a test tube. Heat the solid with high heat and insert a glowing wooden splinter into the test tube. Okay, based on the video here, what happened to the glowing wooden splinter? The glowing wooden splinter are relight, right? Okay, how to know whether there is an oxygen gas or not on that experiment? So the properties of oxygen gas is, firstly, it is a colorless gas, no effect on litmus paper, support combustion, that is why a glowing wooden splinter will relight like on the video before this, and lastly, it is produced by heating a chloride or nitrate salt. Secondly, we look for an experiment to test for hydrogen gas. The procedure for this experiment is firstly, put a few pieces of zinc powder into a test tube. Add 4 cm cube of dilute sulfuric acid into the test tube and place a light wooden splinter near the mouth of the test tube. So what happened on the light wooden splinter based on the video? The light wooden splinter are burned with a pop sound, right? So let's look for the properties of hydrogen gas. Firstly, it is a colorless gas, no effect on litmus paper, form an explosive mixture with air, burn the lighted wooden splinter with a pop sound like on the video on previous slide, and it is produced by an acid-metal reaction. Thirdly, we look for an experiment to test for a carbon dioxide gas. The procedure for this experiment is firstly, put a spatula of solid zinc carbonate into a test tube. Heat the solid with high heat and flow the gas produced into lime water. So based on the video, what happened to the lime water? The lime water turned milky, right? So let's look for the properties of the carbon dioxide gas. Firstly, it is a colorless gas. It is also an acidic gas. Turn moist blue litmus paper to red. Turn lime water milky like on the video and produced by heating a metal carbonate and acid carbonate. Fourthly, we look for an experiment to test for ammonia gas. The procedure for this experiment is firstly, put a spatula of solid ammonium chloride into a test tube. Add 4 cm cube of dilute sodium hydroxide solution into the test tube. Heat the mixture slowly and then place a piece of moist red litmus paper to the mouth of the test tube. So based on the video, what happened to the red litmus paper? It's turned to blue, right? So let's look for the properties of ammonia gas. Firstly, it is a colorless gas, have a pungent smell. It is an alkaline gas, that is why it turns moist red litmus paper to blue. Form dense white fume with hydrogen chloride and produced by heating a mixture of ammonium salt and alkali. Next, we look for an experiment to test for chlorine gas. The procedure for this experiment is firstly, put a spatula of powder manganese oxide into a test tube. Carefully add 2 cm cube of concentrated hydrochloric acid. Heat the mixture slowly, then place a piece of moist blue litmus paper to the mouth of the test tube. So based on the video, what happened to the blue litmus paper? It's turned to red, right? So let's look for the properties of chlorine gas. Firstly, it is a greenish yellow gas, has a pungent smell, acidic gas, that is why it's turned moist blue litmus paper to red on the video, and produced by heating a mixture of manganese oxide and concentrated hydrochloric acid. Next, we'll look for an experiment to test for hydrogen chloride gas. The procedure for this experiment is firstly, put a spatula of solid sodium chloride into a test tube. Add 2 cm³ of concentrated sulfuric acid. Carefully heat the mixture slowly. Dip a glass rod into concentrated ammonia solution, then hold the dipped glass rod to the mouth of the test tube. So, let's look for the properties of the hydrogen chloride gas. Firstly, it is a colorless gas, forms fume in moist air. It is an acidic gas, turn moist blue litmus paper to red, form dense white fumes with ammonia gas, and it is produced by heating a mixture of common salt and concentrated sulfuric acid. Next, we look for an experiment to test for sulfur dioxide gas. The procedure for this experiment is firstly, put a spatula of solid sodium sulfide into a test tube. Add 4 cm³ of diluted hydrochloric acid. Heat the mixture slowly. Flow the gas release into acidified potassium manganate solution. Next, we look for an experiment to test for sulfur. So let's look for the properties of sulfur dioxide gas. Firstly, it is a colorless gas, has a pungent smell, acidic gas, turn moist blue litmus paper to red, reduce orange acidified dichromate ion to green chromium ion, and decolorize purple acidified like on the video on previous slide. Lastly, we look for an experiment to test for nitrogen dioxide gas. The procedure for this experiment is firstly, put a spatula of solid lead nitrate into a test tube. Heat the mixture with high heat. Then place a piece of moist blue litmus paper to the mouth of the test tube. So based on the video, what happened to the blue litmus paper? It's turned to red, right? So let's look for the properties of nitrogen dioxide gas. Firstly, it is a brown gas, has a pungent smell, acidic gas, that is why it's turned moist blue litmus paper to red. React with water to form colorless solution and produced by heating a nitrate salt. Next, let's look for the effect of heat. Most salt decompose when heated. By comparing the color of the salt and the residue left behind and the gas released, we can identify the cation and anion that might be present in the salt. So now, we look on how to investigate the action of heat on carbonate salt. For example, if zinc carbonate is heated, it will produce zinc oxide and carbon dioxide gas. As we learned before this, if there is carbon dioxide gas, the lime water will turn cloudy and the residue, which is zinc oxide, are yellow in color when hot and white in color when cool. If there is color like that, we know that the cation that has been used is zinc. Now, we look on how to investigate the action of heat on nitrate salt. For example, if plumbum nitrate is heated, it will produce plumbum oxide and 2 different gases, which is nitrogen dioxide and oxygen. As we learned before, when there is an oxygen gas, the glowing wooden splinter will relight because oxygen is support combustion, and when there is nitrogen dioxide gas, the blue litmus paper will turn to red because it is an acidic gas. The residue is plumbum oxide, which has brown in color when hot and yellow in color when cool. If there is color like that, we know that the cation that has been used is plumbum, or we call as lead. The cation or anion of salt can be identified based on the gas released when the salt undergoes thermal decomposition. When there is a carbon dioxide gas, so the salt that has been used is carbonate salt. When there is a nitrogen dioxide gas and oxygen gas, the salt that has been used is nitric salt. And when there is an ammonia gas, the salt that has been used is ammonium salt. That's all for today. Thank you so much, everyone.